Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Do Hard Things podcast. I'm your host, JT, certified high performance coach, transformational mindset coach. And in this episode of the Do Hard Things podcast, I have a fantastic conversation with Matt Crossman. Matt and I had met during the Castlewood 8-hour adventure race. An adventure race is it's basically three components: trekking or running. We say trekking because you're traversing over, whatever the terrain is, which is oftentimes like steep hillsides and busting through brush and things like that. Canoeing and mountain biking. And what they do is they give you maps, and you have to use a protractor and compass and orientate your way from point to point. They give you like a passport, and throughout the race, you've got to collect your nav points, and at the very end, they score it. And the adventure is that really, you don't know when you show up where and when you're typically going to ride your mountain bike, or in our race, we had to carry our mountain bikes in our canoes. It's just a lot of fun. It's incredibly challenging and difficult. But Matt and I had met there. We were waiting in line, and he saw I was wearing this hoodie. He's like, "Man, I love that Do Hard Things hoodie." And I'm like, "Yeah, thank you, I appreciate it." And then we started talking, and he said that he was a journalist who talks about and writes about grit and discipline. He had interviewed one of my previous guests, Colonel Retired David Fivecoat, and we just kind of hit it off right off the bat. And so invite him on the podcast, and here we are. So before we get in the interview, I want to just basically say that I appreciate you and your support of this podcast. I'm getting nothing but rave reviews and feedback, and so just thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really have appreciated this project. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe so you're notified of future episodes. Leave a review. Go to Apple iTunes and leave a review. And they go a long way to expanding the reach of the podcast. And please share it with two of your friends. There's a lot of negativity in the world. We just think that what we're doing over here is we're spreading some positivity and giving people some high performance habits and tips so they can achieve that next level of success. Just like all the other podcasts, sponsored by jtgs.com, where I conduct one-on-one coaching, so you can apply for that. And I'm also doing group coaching with the Forge. And, there's going to be other opportunities. There's going to be events next year and a lot of offerings. So sign up for the motivational newsletter. I send out a weekly newsletter. You can go to jtiegs.com, jaytiegs.com, to subscribe to that, where I typically send my top three, my favorite 3 videos of the week. It's usually something educational, something motivational. And really right now I'm learning a lot about cryptocurrency, so trying to help people understand what that is. So I send that out. And if you haven't done so already, go to the shop and get yourself some Do Hard Things apparel so you can show the world that you do hard things. And so let me tell you a little bit about Matt. I'm going to read my notes here. So Matt Crossman is all about doing hard things. And Matt is passionate about the topic of grit, discipline, and shared suffering, and how doing so in a group environment forges deeper relationships. Matt has been a journalist for 27 years and has written for a variety of publications to include NASCAR.com, Success Magazine, and Cowboys and Indians Magazine. Matt's written over 50 cover pieces for national magazines and has been cited by Best American Sports Writing and Best American Essays a combined total of 8 times. Matt has won dozens of awards from regional, state, to national organizations, including Writer of the Year from National Motorsports Press Associations twice. He is the only writer in the 125-year history of the sporting news to appear on the cover. He's been married for 12 years and has 2 kids, 15 and 12. And it was a great conversation. And, I got a lot of great takeaways from it. So I hope you enjoy this episode of the podcast. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Do Hard Things podcast. I have with me Matt Crossman. Matt and I met actually not too long ago. I was doing the Castlewood adventure race. I was wearing, I think, this exact same hoodie, and I'm standing in line. We're getting ready to ramp up for the race. I think we had probably about 20 minutes till the start. We're in the long bathroom line. You had a mask on. I had a mask on. And you're like, "Hey, I really like your shirt." I'm like, "Yeah, cool. Where'd you get it?" I'm like, "It's my brand." And we kind of hit it off. You're like, "I'm a journalist. I love the topic of grit and discipline." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's awesome. We need to connect. I don't have a business card. We got to get to the start." And but later in the day, we connected, and now we're here on the podcast. So I guess just tell us a little bit about yourself, Matt, what you do.
Well, first, I appreciate you omitting the fact that you beat my team in the final about 200 yards or so. I haven't forgotten that. I'm still not very happy about it, and I think I'm being gracious by agreeing to appear on your podcast here just a couple of weeks later. But anyway, yeah, like you said, I'm a freelance magazine writer. I've been a journalist for a long time, and in the last 6 or 8 or 10 years or so, I've become fascinated on the subject of grit and perseverance and persistence, and especially lately pushing yourself to do hard things. That's what struck me about your shirt. Is that's kind of what I write about. Now, it's not only what I write about, but it's a big chunk of what I write about now.
Yeah. So what compelled you to get down the path of studying this particular topic?
That's an interesting question. I wouldn't say, strangely enough, for how it turned out, I really wouldn't say I did it intentionally at first. That sort of a series of events happened. The first is I was at a sports magazine for a long time called The Sporting News. And I wrote, my job was to write profiles of athletes. And just about all of them, in order to become a great athlete, you have to have perseverance. You have to be able to endure. And so I wrote about that subject a lot. And then I got laid off 8 years ago and discovered I did not have very much persistence. I was not enduring. And, the big struggle of my life, losing that job, I felt like I failed at it. And so I got to work sort of in my life doing harder things. That's where it started to become intentional, is I realized I was lacking that trait. So I started to pursue it on purpose after having studied it kind of on accident.
Yeah. So you've been studying and having interviews with these incredibly talented professional athletes who you don't get to that level. Yeah, there's some innate talent, but a lot of it is grit and discipline. And then you learned, hey, that I need a little bit more grit and discipline in my life. Where do you think that that trigger in your mindset really came from? Like, what was the point where it's like, man, I really need to focus on this for myself?
Oh yeah, I can tell you exactly what it was. I had been out on my own for maybe a year or 15 months, and it was going okay. I guess I wasn't. You're launching your own business. It's terrifying. The only thing between you and failure is you. That you have to just. I was working my ass off as hard as I could, and just terrified all the time that I was going to fail. It was nonstop. And people talk a lot about about doubt and fear of failure and imposter syndrome. And I happen to think that some of that is good. That in order to write a great story, I have to doubt that the story that I'm done with, I have to doubt that it's great before it can become great, right? I have to doubt that I'm done with it. I have to doubt that it's good enough. And so in all that sense, that's all good. But it was the constant fear. And I woke up in the middle of the night with a voice talking to me. This has not happened before or since. It said, if you don't calm down, you're going to regret. If you don't calm down in 20 years, you're going to regret not just your career, but your whole life. And as if that wasn't clear enough, it literally said it again. And I wish I could say that I woke up a changed man. I didn't. But gradually I did change. And that was by learning that doing hard things made me more able to do the next hard thing. And probably, there's 1,000 steps along the way. And there's probably the place that I learned that first, and then, just repeat it over and over and over again. It's not like hey, now I've got grit, I can stop, right? You have to learn it over and over and over again. There's a place called the Linville Gorge in North Carolina, just the most spectacular, rugged, challenging hike. And, there's not 2 steps in a row in that place that are the same. It feels like you're scrambling the whole time. And I can remember saying to myself, one more step, I can take one more step. One more step, I can take one more step. And that's kind of become my mantra, whatever I happen to be doing. If it's, paddling in the Castlewood Adventure Race, I can paddle one more time. If it's pedaling, I can go 1 more mile or whatever. And so that's kind of become my mantra. I can do one more.
Yeah. I like what you said about starting your own business. I'm in transitioning from the military now and a new entrepreneur. And you want to talk about terrifying, because my entire life I've
Mhm.
gotten paid on the first, well, not my entire life, my entire adult life, I've gotten paid on the 1st and the 15th. There's a level of familiarity there. I understand the system that I'm working in, and there's some unknowns, but I've gotten incredibly comfortable with the lifestyle that the military affords. And now that I'm going out on my own, where at at a certain date, that's going to change,
Yeah.
and I have to put myself out there and learn new skills. And it's not I've learned a lot about myself in the process of being an entrepreneur, to reach out and try to obtain coaching clients, to start a podcast, to do all of these things that I'm not comfortable with.
Mhm.
I've learned a lot, but what I have leaned on is my previous experiences of doing other challenging things. I'm like you said, it's having that, doing these difficult things in a controlled environment, and facing my fear and overcoming adversity in a controlled environment enables me to tap into that. When I'm trying to reach out to a guest who I think might turn me down, someone that's a recognizable name that we all know. Because I'm doing that more and more,
Yeah.
but enables me to handle the rejections or the unknowns of entrepreneurship. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you don't know when the money's coming in, you don't know what's going to happen. And so that is my reason for developing grit and discipline. And it's really paying dividends as I transition into this new career.
Yeah. I would say mine has, when I first went freelance, I discovered that I didn't have that experience to lean back on that you were describing. That I couldn't say, "Oh, I've done." If I can, I say this all stuff like this all the time now, but like now I'll say, "Oh, if I finish the Castlewood 8 hour adventure race, surely I can finish this story that I'm working on. If I can, finish the Go Ruck event, surely I can, pitch this story to this magazine that I think might think I'm a loser or whatever." I didn't have that to fall back on, or at least I didn't see it in myself. And so that's why I intentionally set out. And I've had a couple of moments along the way in becoming, becoming an entrepreneur that were important. One of them was, so I'd written a lot about college football in my previous life at the magazine. And I'd gotten to know David Cutcliffe, who at the time was the head coach at Duke. He just recently stepped down. I knew him well enough to have conversations with him that weren't about football. And first time I saw him after I got laid off, he didn't like jab his finger in my chest, but basically the equivalent of jabbing his finger in my chest. And he said, "You can't think of yourself just as a writer anymore. You have to think of yourself as a business owner." And it's interesting that that was a huge mind shift for me. And what a strange place for that to come. First of all, at the time, Duke was, they were getting better at football, but what was I even doing covering Duke football? But that turned out to be really helpful in switching, because, I felt like I had been a journalist for 20 years. I sort of felt like I know what a story is. I know how to write a story. I know how to get a story. But that was the end of my abilities. I didn't know how to pitch. I didn't know how to I barely knew how to create a spreadsheet, And so there was a lot of just where's the bathroom level questions that I just had to humble myself and ask. And it was really important to have friends along the way. And so now that I've been doing it a while, I tell people all the time, writers who ask me questions, ask me whatever you want, as many times as you want. Call me, email me, text me, whatever, because there's no way in the world I would have survived the beginning of my freelance career if people hadn't done that for me.
What prompted you to go freelance?
Oh, losing my job. I didn't go. I got kicked.
Okay, so you lost. So there's a drive for necessity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, I tried a little to get a job, but this was 2013, and the media business is not one where a guy with 20 years of experience is likely to get a job worth taking. If I'm being honest, I surveyed the landscape and thought, well, I've got two choices. I can look for a job that I'm 85% sure doesn't even exist, and even if it does, I'm not sure if I'm going to get it. Or I can go it on my own, And I went on my own, and some days it's the best thing that ever happened to me, and some days not so much. But you keep plugging away.
Every day is an adventure.
Yeah. And then some.
So, so you ultimately lost your job. That drive for necessity forced you, like, I want to continue to do this type of work. And what's great about the shifting landscape of technology and everything that's happening is now, I mean, here we are. I basically have my own radio show, if you will. When I was, 20 years ago, this technology didn't exist, and the landscape is changing. Now is the easiest time. It is scary to be an entrepreneur, but it is also the easiest time it has ever been to make the transition to do that.
Yeah, I mean, the changing landscape it's almost hard to keep up with, and
Yeah.
it is hard to keep up with. My first job, I graduated from college in 1994 and started working at a little newspaper in Michigan. And I thought it was just incredible technology that I could cover. I covered city council. I would cover a city council meeting and write it all up. And it was an afternoon paper. And so a city council meeting that ended at 9 o'clock at night, my account of it would be on people's doorsteps at, let's say, noon. And I thought that was just an amazing bit of technology. Now my account of it, if I still cover city council meetings, could be in their phone literally 5 seconds after it ended. And that's dizzying. I haven't covered that kind of stuff in quite a while, but still the distribution is so different. The means of getting a story is still pretty much the same. Use different technology, but the process is basically the same. But the delivery is so different that it's a different world completely.
It's just amazing, like you said, how quickly it has advanced and changed.
Yeah.
And so how do you think that's lent itself to, I guess, how does that change your career? I mean, obviously you're an entrepreneur now, but how has it made life easier for you in that regard?
Oh, easier is not the word I would use. It's made it
Oh, so
harder.
it made it harder. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Trying to keep up with that stuff is really challenging. Trying to hone your reporting skills, your storytelling skills, your interviewing skills, all of that. And then merging that with the different technologies, I find that really challenging. There's only so much you can learn and apply and keep those skills up. I'm not sure, frankly. I would say I'm incredibly good at that. I'm trying to keep up with how technology changes as opposed to being out in front of it. It has just changed. The amount of information out there is just so much. It was a lot then, and it's just so much more now. I mean, I took a class 25 years ago that was called Information Anxiety, which was about how much information is out there and how it's overwhelming. That was before the internet. So, that's changed massively. Yeah. So the whole world has changed by the way that we deliver information.
I remember having an Encyclopedia Britannica. I used to have encyclopedia salesmen that would come by the house, and finally one day my parents bought a set, and that was it. I just can't even fathom having something that takes up that much room now when you have everything that you need on your cell phone.
Yeah. Imagine the amount of information available in your cell phone in 5 seconds relative to that. Yeah.
And things constantly being updated in real time. How do you think we as a society deal with this? Because I think it's information overload.
Oh yeah, and I would say poorly. I would say our ability to discern good information from bad information is really low. We scream at each other on Twitter and Facebook and social media, and there's everything seems like it appears if you read the paper, or you read Twitter, the paper. Look at me, I'm a dinosaur. If you even traditional media, all we write about is the conflict. We don't really grasp that that's not an accurate reflection of reality. And yeah, I think we're struggling to deal with it big time. I think it's a major problem, and I'm not really sure there's a way to fix it other than don't read Twitter, don't read Facebook, read books. Read magazines, read big newspapers. But even that's a challenge.
Yeah, it's hard to. I know one of the frustrating things is hard to feel like, you had a president that was always talking about fake news, fake news, fake news. And it really does seem like that there's some aspects of the news that it's definitely designed to sensationalize, and
Yep.
it's definitely causing people to have a lot of fear.
Yep.
And it's really difficult because there have been stories where they've had to recant, like they launched it before, because everything, like you said, has to be in real time, and they're all jockeying for position. And it just makes it incredibly frustrating as a consumer to understand what is real, what's not, and just the sheer amount of choices of media to consume from. We're so, I mean, as a high performance coach, I'm finding myself with my clients like, okay, how can we consume less so you can stay focused on the things that truly matter? Because it's causing us to do too many things and
Yep.
be completely distracted and not stay focused.
Yep.
And it's very difficult.
Yeah. I think that's one of the great struggles that we all have, that, uh, you're sitting around the dinner table with your kids and you're talking about X movie. Oh, what was the name of that movie again? And you can look it up in 5 seconds. But the next thing you know, someone's on their phone at the dinner table, and that's not the best thing in the world either. And then after they look up that, well, then that person was in this movie, and and then next thing you know, you've been looking at your phone for 20 minutes.
Yeah. Then they're up scrolling TikTok, and then then they're doing dance moves. It's crazy how it distracts us so much. So, what are some of the things that we met at the Castlewood 8-hour, and now that you're engaged in doing these difficult challenges like this, and doing Go Ruck events, and you're a part of F3 and some of these other organizations, how has that enabled you to be a better entrepreneur or face other challenges that you have in your life?
Oh yeah, that would be, other than the fact that it's fun and I enjoy it. I would say the reason that I do, well, there's 2 reasons I do hard things. Setting aside the fact that I think it's fun and enjoyable, it's because of the resilience, endurance, persistence. They're like muscles or skills or abilities, and you have to practice them. And so that when hard things happen, you can endure them. I had probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I gave my mom's eulogy in July. She died New Year's Eve last year in Michigan. And we couldn't, she didn't want a funeral. She wanted a party, which is perfectly in keeping with her character, and couldn't have it because of COVID. And so finally we could have it in July. And, I've been a writer for a long time. I've written, I don't even know how many thousands, millions of words. Having to write my mom's eulogy was both easy because what subject do I know better than that? But also extremely difficult because I would have to deliver it. And so the day of the delivery, I was just so stressed out, so nervous. Not that I would screw it up exactly, because that's just not exactly. I wasn't really worried about screwing it up. It was just, just the pressure of everything was too much. And so I was taking a walk just to try to clear my head. And that phrase, one more step, I can take one more step, occurred to me. And I thought, well, you dumbass, that's why you do these hard things. And so instead of one more step, I started to say to myself, one more sentence. You can say one more sentence. And so I gave the eulogy. I wouldn't say that I knocked it out of the park, but the quality wasn't really the point. But I did it. And so that's one reason I do these things, is because doing a hard thing, paddling for 4 miles, riding your bike for 15, tromping through the woods for 6 to only get passed by some jerk and do hard things at the very end. But then I've also discovered, this is a relatively new benefit that I'm trying to figure out what to do with this, is I've discovered that the relationships that get formed in the trenches are so powerful, and the friendships are so intense and beneficial, that has become my focus. How can I, and part of that is because my mom's singular characteristic was she had 8 billion friends. Everybody loved her. She had 1 million friends. But I've started to think, okay, having great friends is one thing, but what do you do with that? How do you create that? And once you create that, what can you do with that after? And so I'm trying to figure out, like, I'm at a crossroads in my life. How do I combine these two things? This ability to do these hard things, at which you form these super strong, incredible bonds. Put on top of that the loneliness that is just epidemic in our society. It was before COVID. It's even worse now. Those things seem to be coalescing in front of me, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with it.
There's, as you said that about connecting with other people And it's the community. Like, I think about Castlewood and the community of adventure racers that are there. I think about the community of runners when I show up at a marathon level event, or even a 5K, right? Showing up on a Saturday morning running a 5K or a bike ride, or people are always like, Jay, why are you out running? That's bad for your knees, right? You're doing 75 hard and you're drinking a gallon of water. That's not good for your kidneys. And if you're outside of the crowds that are getting together to do these challenges together, there's something to be said about the level of just the connections and the bonds that you make with doing something challenging that's unlike any other circle of connection that I have anywhere else. And I think until you experience that, it's going to be very hard to understand. Because for me personally, I don't generally like to go out and run by myself long distance. I like to suffer with friends, and it's the camaraderie and the community around suffering that makes it worthwhile. So when you said that that's a focus area, that's something I'm really intrigued with, because when I think about it, I like to do hard things. I don't necessarily like to do them by myself. I like to do them with a community of people, or have a partner to suffer with.
I would, the Castlewood 8-hour adventure race by yourself, that would suck. I mean, frankly, it sucked with 4 people on my team. But doing that, like, what would even be fun about that? Who are you going to talk to? Who are you going to share it with later? I mean, the concept of shared suffering, I'm fascinated by that. And so the thing that got me thinking about the relationships that you form was, you and I talked about this just a little bit. It's starting, we did it last year. We called it MABA, which was Make America Burpee Again. And the idea was, you mentioned F3, which is a free men's workout group that I'm a member of here near St. Louis. And I led an early morning workout where we have this hill, we call it 5-0 Hill. And I was trying to think, what is the worst possible way to go up that hill? Okay, if walking up is the easiest, running up is the second easiest, and bear crawl is the third easiest, what would be last in terms of difficulty? So I came up with something, we called them Sweet Bippy Burpees. So you start off laying on your back and you do a get up. So you sit up into a standing position. Then you do a burpee and you frog jump forward, lay back down on your back, do a get up. So basically doing burpee, frog jump, get ups. I mean, so we call them Sweet Bippies because you bet your Sweet Bippy they suck. So we get all the way up to the top of the hill and we come back down, and it's just a horrible workout. And one of my buddies said, "What are you trying to do? Make America Burpee again?" And we all kind of looked at each other and said, Oh, I like the sound of that. And a flurry of texts later, we decided, all right, we're all going to do 100 burpees a day, every day in January. And we massaged it a little, say, no, let's do 3,100, because 100 burpees literally every day. That's maybe not the healthiest thing in the world. We'll let people take a day off. So at first it was 6 of us were going to do it. Then it was 20, and eventually 400 guys agreed to sign up to do it. And we had originally cast it. The theme was fall down, get back up, because that's a burpee. Fall down, get back up together. The idea was we had just had 2020 had been the worst year of anyone's life, basically since World War II, right? And so we were going to practice. We were going to learn resilience intentionally together. And then we got done with it, and it was awesome, hilarious, funny, terrible. And we realized, it was about resilience, but the friendships that we have at the end of that are so much more powerful than the resilience, even more powerful than the resilience, that this year, that's intentionally what it's going to be, is about fighting loneliness. Same thing, because it still fits, fall down, get back up together. But the together part is really the focus. And so we encourage everybody who's taken part, and we're hoping to have more than 400 after last year. That's the point. Yes, it's great if you can do 100 burpees a day, but the point is to do it in community and to form relationships through doing that. And it's hard to describe the relationships that happen, except for through anecdotes. And the best one was this: we got a blizzard. People in St. Louis remember there was a blizzard last January. We got 6 or 10 inches. It's right in the middle of MABA. We had this long text chain going, and for some reason I text stupid stuff all the time. So I texted out and I said, the first person to send me video. There has to be video proof. You can't just tell me you did it. Send me video evidence of yourselves doing shirtless burpees out in the snow. I'll buy your next coffee. It wasn't 10 minutes. Everybody on that text chain had done it, including me. And then the next one was the first person to send me video of himself doing burpees with a live raccoon while you are wearing a coonskin cap. One day, the guy, somehow he caught a live raccoon and he already had a coonskin cap. So it's the and we're still talking about that a year later. And so it's those bonds that we really want to focus on this year.
Oh, that's absolutely hilarious. And I just think about the groups that I run in, and we do the same type of smack talking and silly challenges and things like that. And it just makes the suffering, there's something to be said about suffering with a group of people, and you find a way to make it fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if people want to look, I have a newsletter called The Accidental Adventurer. And that's where there'll be a sign up sheet there, and I'll be sort of covering it. Isn't the exact word, but I can't think of a better one. I'll be covering it there at the it's a Substack newsletter called The Accidental Adventurer.
Sounds good. We can drop that in the show notes. So for those listening, if you want to reach out and get connected, they can link to that. It sounds fun. I might,
you'll get a kick out of this because being an old Army guy, we had a guy who was a former military who, after a week or two, his burpee number was super high. He's an F3 guy. His nickname is Disco Ball. He's from Naperville, Illinois. And I'm like, dude, what is going on? How's your burpee total so high? His answer was he was already doing, as a matter of course, 150 a day. And so, so doing 100 would be doing less. So I thought, well, I'll double it to make it a challenge. And once he doubled it, he thought, well, 300, times 31, that's 9,300. I'm not doing 9,300 burpees and not doing 10,000. So then he upped the ante up to 10,000. I got lots of texts from guys or emails from guys who said, I'll work for 25 minutes, then do 10 burpees and get back to work. Instead of going and getting a candy bar, I'll do 10 burpees. All these ways guys were working burpees into their life. He, when he took the break, was doing 25, which it's one thing to drop and do 10 burpees. You could probably do that in 40 seconds, but to do 25 in a row that's pretty hard. And he made up a game. I called it Burpee Go Seek, where he was playing hide and seek with his kids. They would go hide and he would do 25 burpees and then go find them. And he ended up doing 11,000 burpees in 1 month. I did 5,000. I did 5,000. I wasn't even halfway to his total.
That's incredible. What a machine. No, that's fantastic. No, burpees are hard. They're incredibly uncomfortable I don't know too many exercises that suck worse than a burpee.
Yeah. One of the reasons, love isn't the right word, but one of the reasons I love burpees is I did a GoRuck event. And in the run up to that, I was interviewing the cadre because I was writing about it. So I wanted to interview him to get to know him a little bit. And so if I asked him questions on site, he would know who I was. And he told me, the most efficient way to get yourself ready for an event like GoRuck, there's basically 2 thrusters and burpees. And that's one of the assignments that was, super challenging physically, that I learned a lot from. And I might have told you the story already. I can't remember. But it's the middle of the night. It's like 3:30 in the morning. We've just done 110 thrusters and run 1.5 miles with a 25-minute time limit. This is at 3 o'clock in the morning after rucking for 7 hours. So we're already smoked. And I got done with that. And I wanted to ask this cadre, who is a Green Beret, former Green Beret, the point of all of that is to smoke us, right? To destroy us physically and a little bit mentally so that they can put us back together. That's the whole point of the event. And I was trying to ask him, what are the physical indicators? What does a man's body do when you've broken him? What is the proof that you see in the men around us that we're broken? He didn't answer the question. I asked him again. He's like, and he gave me a look like he didn't know what the hell I was talking about. So I went to the other cadre, tried to ask him. He did the same thing. I'm like, what's the matter with these guys? So I went and got back in line, caught my breath, and realized, you know what's happening? I'm not actually asking. I'm so tired and so mentally fried. I didn't ask either one of them the question I meant to ask them. So I walked back over to him and took a deep breath and then asked it again. He was like, that's what you're trying to ask me. And then he answered. So basically I was the answer to my own question.
That's awesome. If you haven't done a Go Ruck event, they are fantastic. I've done a few, and they're unique experiences for sure. Every one of them has been incredibly different, but
Yeah.
challenging nonetheless.
And as if to reward me for that, the next thing that happened is, you know, one of the cadre, one of the Green Berets, you know, sticks his meaty little finger into my chest and says, you know, come with me. Friggin' blindfolds me, you know, puts duct tape around my eyes. It's pouring rain. I'm in a park at 3:30 in the morning and this guy's blindfolding me. Like, what the hell? And so for the next 45 minutes, I mean, this was super valuable. I mean, this is as powerful as a thing as I've learned. Next 45 minutes, I've got one hand on the guy in front of me, right? One hand on the guy next to me. Got 35, you know, a 30-pound plate in my pack or whatever other food and stuff I had. And for a while, I had a sandbag on my back. And, you know, the power of absolutely relying on those two men, I had no choice. There's nothing I can do but hold on to them. Thankfully, it was, I guess, it was in a subdivision, which is weird. You know, it wasn't out in the woods. So it was a little bit easier to walk because there was sidewalk and then street and then sidewalk. So they would say sidewalk, you know, street, sidewalk, you know, look out, you're going a little left, you're going to hit the crack in the sidewalk or whatever. You know, and the point of that was, you know, before you can lead, you have to be willing to be led. But that was, you know, super powerful, super fun until they ripped the tape off my face. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, those events are fantastic. Like you said, they always do little things like that to teach you. There's a lot of lessons taught when you're doing those physical events like that.
Yep. Yeah.
So in your study of you know, shared suffering, what are some of the things that you have learned?
Oh boy, we can talk all day on that. I think that the first one would be the benefits of it. The second one would be, why didn't you know this before?
Yeah.
You know, a little bit of self-discovery of, boy, I've really taken the easy way, didn't understand or appreciate or know the benefits of doing hard things. Yeah, I mean, certainly the strength of, you know, mentally and physically, just how much better we can always still get, you know, no matter how much, you know, just how that's the only way to get resilient is to suffer. You know, you can't get that the easy way. The only way to become resilient is to be broken and put back together. That's the only way to do it. You know, I didn't know that before. I guess maybe I would have guessed it if you asked me, but I had no practical experience of that whatsoever. You know, overcoming fear has been a big thing. I would say I sort of had a long-standing fear of heights, and I eventually discovered it wasn't so much a fear of heights as it was not understanding how the stuff that protects you from falling works. So I've done tree climbing, ice climbing, rock climbing. And when I learned how carabiners and ropes and all of that worked, suddenly I wasn't quite so scared anymore. And so, you know, I think that a lot of that is just gaining an understanding of how challenges work and what it takes to succeed. That's been a big part of it too.
Yeah, I have very much in my life been scared of heights, and the Army has put me in situation to face those fears. And in like going to like sapper leader course or air assault school where you rappel out of helicopters, rappel off a tower, sapper leader course, we had to rappel people off our back. We had to do it Australian style, face forward. But really it's confidence in your equipment. And what I've learned is that the fear is still there. However, the confidence that I've gained in my equipment and the people to my left and right, knowing that I'm going to be okay, enables me to continue to go through the exercise, you know, throw that right hand out there, you know, and knowing what I need to do to stop myself from falling. And it's through facing your fears and being put in those situations, you develop confidence.
Yep.
And that's incredibly important to put yourself in those situations to do that.
Yeah, I would say from someone who's been through that recently, you're going to be really happy you have that as an entrepreneur. I had to learn it. I had to learn that on the fly. You've already got that confidence. That's going to help you immensely. I mean, one of the reasons I got into adventure stuff was to face those fears so that I could face other fears. And yeah, that has become hugely, hugely important. I had to do both at the same time. You've already got that going in. I think I'd be curious to ask you, once you've been an entrepreneur for a year, I'd be curious to hear, maybe it started already. Maybe you're facing fears in a way, already, but certainly when you're jumping out of that plane, right? You burn. I read the blog you wrote about burning the ships. You let the ships on fire. That was an act of confidence already. I would be willing to bet if you hadn't been jumping out of planes for a while, you would have been much less willing to light that match to burn the ships.
Well, what I've learned is, it's having that learning mindset, that mindset of growth, that no matter, yes, I may not know it now and there is fear there. However, there is someone that has done what I am doing. And just like anything else in the military, it's just like, okay, I need to go seek out that individual and I can be trained in whatever that is. And I need to put in the reps and do the reps. And, I think of the movie The Matrix all the time. It's like where he unplugs himself from the Matrix and then he's loading up all of this data. Yeah, I can do jujitsu. You can be trained to do certain things if you're willing to roll up the sleeves and do the work. That's the thing, is you've got to do the work. You got to get gritty. And that is facing your fears and doing some things that are uncomfortable. But a lot of people choose comfort, or they choose the fear of taking on the hardship of learning something new, or the fear of looking like an idiot or asking a silly question. Earlier in my life, I was very much terrified to raise my hand in class and ask the stupid question. Even in the military, the early aspects of my military career, there's a lot of, it's a type A personality driven organization where people will make fun of you if you're, but I've learned truly that there's usually someone else that's thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
And by just asking the question, I'm going to learn it and I don't care what people think of me. I have shortened that learning curve significantly and developed the confidence I need to face the fears. The fear is there. It's just a reminder that I care. And that I need to, my spidey senses are on, so I need to be careful.
Right.
But I know that I can be instructed, and I know that there's equipment there that's going to keep me from falling. There's a net there that's going to catch me if I do fall of some kind. And you can only do that through putting yourself through those situations.
Yeah, one of the in the last 8 or 10 years, a little bit on purpose and a little bit just by coincidence, I haven't become expert in any of these things, but I've gone at least, once or twice, surfing, rock climbing, ice climbing, dog mushing school, rappelling, canyoneering, this whole long list of adventure type things, go ruck, long bike rides, long hikes, all those things. And, the ability to say yes, the ability to take that first step, that's, absolute requirement, all of them. And then they start to be similar, right? The willingness to try, some of the physical skills, the balance, the strength, the endurance, all of those things start to come together. But you can't do the fifth thing unless you do the first four. So that's been a big thing for me, is the willingness to try as many new things as I humanly can.
And a lot of people are scared to trying new things because they don't want to fail or look
I
like they
love
look
falling
silly.
on my face. Like if take surfing, for example. I went to Hawaii a couple of years ago, and if I'm going to Hawaii, of course I'm going to take surf lessons. And the two best stories are small, falling flat on my face. The three best stories, actually, that the first, I'm at North Shore, Hawaii, right? What am I even doing? How did I get here? I paddle up, the instructor yells the 4-step command. I cut it down to 3, but whatever. And first wave, I'm standing up. I'm like, holy shit, I'm riding this first wave. And I remember the last thing he had said was, if you're riding, don't look back. And so I'm riding, and I thought, I wonder why I said don't look back. And I looked back, and I didn't even barely move my eyes, and I was face first in the water. 2 rides later, I just got swallowed whole by a wave right before I even really got up. I got back to him and I said, what the hell happened? That was weird. And he had like this serene, like Zen look on his face. And he said, you know, I watch a million waves, and sometimes they work out perfectly, and sometimes it crashes right on your head. You never know which one is which until you get up on the board. And then, so I'm like, well, gosh, that's all of life summed up right there, right? You got to get up on the board. Maybe you'll ride it. Maybe the wave will swallow you whole. And then, you know, I've worked with a lot of guides in these things. And like you were saying about confidence in the guide, confidence in the coach, you learn pretty quickly who's a good coach and who's not. So a couple days later, I'm surfing again, this time at Waikiki Beach. And I got to the point where, you know, these waves weren't super big, so I could pretty much get up. I couldn't turn, I couldn't stop, I couldn't do anything, but I could get up and ride just about every wave. And so I got up on that one, and I looked down super fast, and I went too fast, and I fell right away. And so I like told myself, you went too fast and you looked down. Don't do that again. I paddled back out, and before I could even say anything to the guide, I mean, he repeated back to me the exact critique I had said to myself. And I thought he hadn't, frankly, I wasn't even sure he had been watching. But I thought, okay, that guy knows what he's talking about, because he diagnosed exactly as, I mean, it was like it was really kind of creepy that he used even the same language that I had used.
That's incredible. I was stationed in Hawaii, and I went up to, I think, Pipeline up in North Shore, and I got pummeled. I got pummeled out there. Those waves, they don't look like they're very big until you're laying down and they're right there.
But you make a great point about failure, right? People don't want to fail. They don't want to try surfing and be terrible at it. Frankly, as a journalist, what fun is it if you don't fail? What did you recover from? What did you overcome? What did you even accomplish? If failure really wasn't on the table, that's boring. Who wants to do? I don't think I want to do something if I already know how to do it. You know, if I'm already an expert at it, what am I gonna write about? What am I gonna learn? How am I gonna grow? Now, granted, it is fun to be an expert too, but if I didn't crash surfing, we wouldn't be having this conversation. What would I have gotten out of it?
Yeah. That's something I've been looking at as far as adventure races. Something I learned was that last year I had kind of a light bulb moment. Like every time, I've been very proud of this. Like every time that I have lined up to do a run or an endurance cycling event or any event that I've done, I have always finished. I'm like, no matter what happens, if I line up and you hit the start, I'm going to finish this thing if it kills me. Mm-hmm. I have never DNF'd. I've come close a couple of times, but I've never DNF'd. And there's a couple events that scare me, and I actually just joined the lottery for them. But one is the Leadville Trail Run, and the one is the Leadville Mountain Bike Race, the Leadville 100. Both of those events scare me, and I just signed up for the lottery, and I'll find out next month if I've made either one of those. But it's I need something to fail. I think I need a humbling event. I've been watching the Barkley marathons. You familiar with the Barkley?
Is that the one in Kentucky where it's
the one in Kentucky? Only 15 people have ever finished it.
Yeah.
It's really designed for you to fail. And just watching these accomplished runners face that failure for them, I think there's a lot to be said in failing something catastrophically like that was something that you're comfortable with. Because I feel like I've maybe gotten a little bit too comfortable with my endurance exploits, and I need something that's going to push me way out there. And
I set up a story. I challenged myself on an assignment in a similar way 4 years ago. I had this idea that I wanted to see if I could get my first. I used to play a ton of golf. Now that I've got two kids, I don't play nearly as much. But I wanted to try to get my first hole in one. And so the idea was, there's a par 3 course. I live in suburban St. Louis. There's a par 3 course about 6 miles from my house. And so I talked this golf magazine into paying me to write this story, that I would play the same par 3 holes over and over and over and over again to see if I could get my first hole in one. And the idea was to try to learn to keep trying through failure. And so that was, I'd sort of like been in this rut where I sort of felt like I was starting things and not really finishing them. Like I had this long list of classic books that I had started and not finished. And I started to see that as a little bit of a weakness. I was just dabbling. I wasn't in the endurance stuff like I am now. And so that was, I saw that as a way to build like sort of mental strength to keep doing something in the face of constant failure.
Hmm. So how did you end up doing?
Shot number 1,589 went in.
Wow. How
Yeah.
long did that take you?
It took me 2 months, 32 trips to the golf course, and yeah, shot 1,589.
I know it'd be hard to, I'm not a golfer. So
Mhm.
for someone listening, like, is that a reasonable amount of time? Is this like a lightning strike kind of event? Could you have
Yeah,
probably,
I would frankly, I would say I was pretty surprised that I got it. That, the odds are 1 in 15,000. So I had my thumb on the scale a little bit in that I was playing the same holes over and over and over again. But yeah, nobody thought I was going to get it. I don't think. Like, people were like, they were cheering me on, like when I would post about it, and then afterwards, like, my dad's like, "I didn't think you were going to get it." My editor said, "I didn't think you were going to get it." All my friends said, "I didn't think you were going to get it." But the fun of that was, the trying over and over and over again. But then, I learned a similar lesson in that I did with MABA. That while I first thought it was going to be an exercise in persistence and sticking it out when you want to quit, I ended up inviting a lot of friends to go with me, and that turned into something else entirely. That it became about playing golf with my friends, while still also being about getting the hole in one. But the other thing that I learned in that too is I call it the power of almost. And I wrote an essay about this, but that I had, I think I had 5 shots. If I'm getting some of the numbers mixed up now, but I think I had 5 shots that were within 2 feet, including one early in the morning where you could see the dew, and it rolled by the hole. Let me see, about that much. And I had a tape measure with me to measure how close I was. That one was 4 inches away. And so I was like sort of doing this mental thing. Okay, are you happy that you almost made it, or are you pissed that you came that close and didn't win? Okay, sort of similar to, let's say you and I, let's say you didn't beat me for a 36, which frankly isn't all that impressive. But let's say you and I were going for the win when you passed me in the last 200 feet. How would I respond to that? Would I say, I finished second in the Castlewood Adventure Race and I almost won the damn thing? Or would I say, I lost it in the last 200 yards? So my take on it is, and this is the lesson for the entrepreneur is, sometimes the almost leads to the success. Okay. Yeah. So I've had a lot of stories that I pitch that I'll hear back from the editor and they'll say, well, I love that idea, but it's not right for us for this reason. Or I love that idea, but we just did a story just like that. When I get a no like that, I always keep going, because I know from experience that an almost is going to lead to a yes. And I think there's value in that in the business world, and there's value in that in the endurance, in the exercise, in the persistence world. That if you almost finish an Ironman, you're going to finish it the next time, right?
Yeah. If you get back up and try it again, yeah. If you don't let it defeat you, it's that persistent getting up and doing it anyway. When that ball sunk in the hole and actually went in, what were your emotions? How was that for you?
Oh, that day, it was I'm not going to lie, it was one of the best 5 minutes of my life. Now you got to go back to about 6:30 in the morning. I'm nervous because we set a 3-month timeline and I'm at the 2-month point. So now I'm more than halfway done and I'm going to be gone a lot. So my ability to play is going to diminish. My kids have been going with me, and it's riotously funny to take 2 little girls to the golf course. They think it's a playground. And so I said to my daughter, do you want to go with me? And she said, and she was reading, so she said no. I get in the garage, and I had this light bulb moment that a friend of mine had sent me a text that said when he got his hole in one, there was nobody around. And it was like a command. Be sure when you get it that there's somebody there. Okay. It wasn't if, it was when. And so I closed the door, went back in the house, went up to her bedroom and said, I'll buy you Dunkin'. And I didn't even have to say Dunkin' Donuts. I'll buy you Dunkin' Donuts if you go with me. She was in the car before I finished saying Dunkin' Donuts. get in the car, I buy her a donut. She's eating it. She's having the time of her life. We're on the tee. And I promise you, I've got video evidence that she is cheering, "Daddy, Daddy, he's our man. If he can't do it, no one can." So I'm all set up to give her the memory of a lifetime. Dramatic swing, thud, ball rolls like 30 feet, complete duff. But I'm hitting like 10 shots per tee. So I swing, and she's taking video. And I told her 100 times, shut off the video, after the ball hits the green, because I don't want to destroy my memory. I swing, I hit the ball, and I say, "Oh, that's got a chance." Then my daughter says, "Oh, that's going to be close." She stops recording.
Oh.
And the ball goes in the hole.
Oh.
But the funny thing is, she was being obedient, because I told her 100 times to stop recording. I'm like, damn it, the first time she's obedient, and this is what happens. But then she turns the recorder back on, and she's like, "Should we call mommy?" And I said, "Well, let's go make sure the ball's still in the hole, make sure it actually went in, even though I knew it did." And so we've got this great video of us, running to the cart, driving to the hole. We run up to the hole, and she says, "It's in. Now should we call mommy?" So yeah, that was pretty great. And on top of all that, I got a hole in one.
That's outstanding. What an awesome story. So when you went out to the golf course, did you just spend like an hour out there just swinging from the tee? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I had a notebook where I would keep track of shots, and I think I kept track of how many how many were on the green, how many were within 20 feet, and how many were within 5 feet. And so it was 1,589 shots, and I think 799 of them, I think, were on the green, and then some were, and then a bunch were closer than that. So I would typically play the same hole. I would hit like 10 shots and then go get them. And usually I putted whichever one was closest, just so I could work on the other skills of my game. But putting didn't matter, so I sometimes I didn't bother. And if there was nothing on the green, I just picked them all up. But I actually strangely enough, the improvement in my game was in putting, even though I wasn't working on that, which doesn't make any sense. But I mean, sometimes it was like putting into a Frisbee. I was making so many. That skill has since abandoned me. I didn't build that skill anymore. But
what did your editor say when you finally made it before the cutoff?
I think he was shocked. No way. I think his text was no way, because I sent him a picture of the ball in the hole, and he said, "Oh, no way." And so we go back to the clubhouse where I'd gotten to be friends with the clubhouse manager. And I walked in with my arms up, and she's like, no, you didn't. And I said, yeah, I did. And then we went back out to the green to take some more pictures, and there was guys on the tee, and they're like, "Is that you? We heard somebody yelling." So no, they didn't know what it was, but yeah, I yelled super loud, threw my club in the air.
That's awesome.
That was
and you get to share that with your daughter. That's a memory that you'll have forever.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So if someone's listening to this and they were very much in a spot like you were, very comfortable most of their life, and how do you encourage or inspire someone to start the path of doing something challenging or difficult so they can put in the reps to be more resilient and gritty?
Oh, that's a great question. How do you convince? Well, I think the first thing I would tell them, I think I would start at the end and say, the friends that I have and the stories that I tell and the experiences of my life are so incredible that my life is completely different and completely better because of that. And along the way, you're going to learn persistence and endurance and resilience, that it's going to be there when you need it. Now, that answer has changed for me. 6 months ago, I would have started with the persistence and the endurance and the resilience. But something has changed for me, where it's become, they are more the means to the end. And now the end is the friendships and the relationships and the shared suffering, and the having friends to hug their necks and to just marvel at the ridiculous situations we get ourselves into. talking about Go Ruck, hiking through the pouring down rain in the dark and laughing about that afterwards. I think I would start with that. And that, oh yeah, and also no matter what happens in your life, you're going to be able to lean back on these incredibly difficult challenges. But yeah, a year ago, I would have led with the resilience. I think my outlook on that has changed. That's still obviously still super important, but I feel like at least they're equal now.
Yeah. I just had a thought of doing, I did a Go Ruck up at Jefferson City, and it was winter time. The cadre had us out there doing hydro burpees out in the Missouri River. And it was so cold, so cold. I remember I was at my breaking point. Like, I can't do any more of these. And we all interlocked together as a group. And some of my closer friends had went to this event, and we just got in there and we finished up. And I still have a Go Ruck patch with the Missouri mud kind of dried on it. It's one of my favorite, because we got some great photos from it, but one of my favorite experiences with some of my closest friends was doing something I never thought that I would ever do anything as silly as that. And as much as I hated it at the moment, looking back, it's just a fantastically fond memory, and it's up in my Forerunner, my little patch, and I see it all the time. I see the mud on there, and I always think about that experience, that incredible experience I had.
Yep, I would say the beginning of my adventure life was a 2-day hike on the Appalachian Trail. Had no experience in that whatsoever, but wanted to do it. And we got there, and it was raining. I've never seen rain that hard. I mean, the animals were lining up 2 by 2 to get in this giant wooden boat. I'd never seen anything like it. And so I had rain pants, these cheap rain pants I had bought at Walmart or whatever. And we're not on the trail 5 minutes, and on my right thigh, I get a snag. It circles all the way around, and the pant literally drops down to my boot. Half an hour later, same thing. So I've got these rain pants that are now they're in 3 pieces. Like, it looks like I'm wearing shorts and leg warmers, and it's just still downpouring. And my friends would laugh at me like I'm some kind of idiot because I've got these pants that lasted, half an hour, and it's raining so hard, and it's actually cold enough that it's borderline dangerous because we're not going to be able to start a fire. We had planned on camping. We ended up staying in this in a shelter. It was an old barn. That's what it's there for. It's a shelter on AT. I think it's gone now. And I think I counted there was 26 people staying in this shelter, all of them shivering, 22 of them smoking pot. The only 4 people who weren't smoking pot were me and my 3 friends. And I'm not even positive about 2 of them. I'm just saying. But, one of the guys, one of your questions on the sheet you sent me was, who are the important people in your life? My friend Andy, in terms of adult friends, would be, right up there. And so just the experience of being soaking wet and miserable and just laughing hysterically. So now he and I have hiked all over the place, gone on adventures in New Mexico, Colorado, Tennessee, North Carolina, all over the place. And it starts with this just miserable, it was raining so hard that the trail, the trail's only like that wide, literally was running water. So you either walk through the water or you walk with your feet, kind of like a penguin on the side of it. And I wouldn't remember that hike at all if it wasn't horrible. It would have faded into the murkiness of the depths of your memory, whatever. But the misery of it makes it powerful, and it makes you friends with it. And, whenever that picture shows up in either one of our memories, one of us sends it to the other and makes fun of me because there's this picture of me sitting on the ground with these pants in 3 pieces. I look ridiculous, but it's also one of the, if I could take 10 pictures of me to show somebody, what is the power of life, that picture would be one of them.
Yeah, no, I just think about all the challenges that I've been through, and yeah, they usually had some type of hardship around them. Some of my fondest memories at the time, incredibly miserable.
Yep.
But looking back, it's something you can laugh about. If you're with people, it's always a story that you share. And it's I don't know, when you experience challenges with people, it definitely deepens your friendship with people. You have a deeper commonality, and that's, we as humans need deep connection. And I look at the circle of friends that I have. I got different pools of people, but the ones that I suffer with the most and have challenge and endure things with, I'm closer to them than I am, other pockets of people.
I turned 50 in October, and I conceived this adventure that I called 50-50-50. And we hiked 50 miles, biked 50 miles, and canoed 50 miles, all in one 5-day trip to Wisconsin. I have 10 friends or 9 friends with me, so 10 of us total. And the physical part was okay. The hiking, the hike took 3 days, the bike took 1. And then day 4 in the canoe, I had massive insomnia. So the day before the canoe, I hiked 8 miles and biked 54 or 56. I don't remember what the final total was. And then I slept about 2 hours. Got in the boat, and I was a mess. I could barely think straight. I was almost a little reluctant to talk because I didn't want my friends to recognize the condition I was in, because I was worried they were going to tell me, "You're done. You can't keep going." We get in the canoe, and or as we were getting into the canoe, I had this thought: there are 2 people in the world who I want in the back of that canoe. One of them is that friend Andy that I just mentioned. He wasn't there. The other one was my friend Rob French. He's a former F-15 fighter pilot, and he was there. And we hadn't really sorted out who's going to be in whose canoe or whatever. So I just went up to him and I said, "You're going to be in the back of my canoe." I didn't ask him. I told him, because I thought, I'm only barely capable of participating right now. I think I can paddle. That's it. And I ate about 5 pounds of M&Ms. I drank about a gallon of water with electrolytes in it. And I started to rally a little bit. He's got this picture of me taken from the back of the canoe with this gorgeous blue sky like God's showing off. So I'm kind of turned back like that. It's just this great picture of me. And I look alive and bright, vibrant. And I'm looking at that picture going, I know that I'm half dead in that picture. And we have a picture on the water or on the eating dinner later on where I felt better. And in this picture, I look like I got run over by a truck. So the reason I say all that is those friendships and that knowing, that absolute knowing that somebody's got you, you only learn that. You only learn that by doing hard things. There's no other way to learn that. And Rob and I had been through stuff together. We're close friends. We work out together multiple times a week. I know he's a shit kicker. So I knew, plus, let's be honest, he's a lieutenant colonel in the Missouri Air National Guard. You don't become a lieutenant colonel in the Missouri Air National Guard by being a slouch. And he's also a former F-15 fighter pilot. So he's got, some mental and physical attributes that I was already familiar with. But we also had that strength of relationship that you only build that. You only build that by going through hard things together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I could not agree more.
And also, I talked about Make America Burpee again. He's the one who made up that phrase. He's the one who said at the end of that workout, "What are you trying to do? Make America Burpee again?" So also, I know that he's clever. So
that's awesome. Well, we're over an hour here. So is there anything that you'd like to add on the topic of your research of grit and doing hard things and whatnot that someone would need to know?
Yeah. The one other thing that I would say is in writing magazine profiles and getting to know people and talking to both, the people who endured the thing that I'm writing about and the people around the people who endured the thing that I'm writing about, I learned a couple of things. That there's a difference between going through something hard, like we're talking about, where we are choosing to go through it, and in a literal sense, we could quit if we wanted. I could have walked off a 50-50-50, and there's really no consequence to my life, right? But the people that I'm talking about, this is like, death and destruction and cancer and car accidents, stuff like that, where they have to endure, they don't have any choice. But I think it's the similarity is that it's still roughly the same. What I was surprised by was a couple of things. Is the number of people who will say, as bad as that was and as terrible as it was, it has made me who I am, and I wouldn't take it out of my life if I could. That's not universal. And I have occasionally asked people that question and frankly regretted it because I think it made me sound insensitive. I thought that I was going to get one answer, and I was like, and they were like, you're an idiot. No, of course I would undo that. But more often than not, it is so important to their sense of self and their ability to endure, which is inseparable from who they have become, that they can, and honestly, they can't imagine their life without it. So it doesn't matter anyway. That's really interesting to me. I'm still trying to understand that. So that would be one. And just, and some people, one woman I profiled in particular, she lost a daughter and a husband in the span of like less than a year. She was in Alaska and she was going to get firewood, and she had her baby tucked up inside her parka, which is the way moms have carried babies in Alaska since there have been moms to carry babies in Alaska. She gets to the firewood, they were homesteaders. She gets to the firewood area and the baby's dead. And a few months later, her husband dies. Oh. And she became an Ironman triathlete and a dog musher to learn to endure the personal suffering she was going with. Almost like she was transferring the personal suffering to physical suffering and enduring both at the same time. So people are resilient. They are stronger than you think. But the only way to find out if you have it is to be tested. And we don't like that. We teach ourselves, we are taught from the beginning that we don't want to be tested, when really what we should do is test ourselves so we're prepared when it comes.
Yeah. We kind of alluded to that at the very beginning of this conversation with just the media and the comfort and all of those things we live in such an abundant society. We're tremendously blessed, but with that, I think that we have become incredibly comfortable. Yeah. And there are a lot of things that keep us distracted. Hence the mantra, do hard things, take the path of resistance and difficulty and challenge, because you're going to live a better, more fulfilling life with deeper connection. You're going to level up in so many different ways.
It's gloriously countercultural. That's, imagine a culture where we have to convince ourselves to do hard things.
Yeah. Yeah.
The very requirement that your podcast exists, and it's a requirement, we need podcasts like yours, that speaks to something about society that I think it's kind of sad that we have to be I used to be a card carrying member of it, so I feel like I can comfortably say we need to be convinced to do hard things. So.
And biologically, as human beings, we're designed to take on difficult things because we've been doing that for centuries. It's only just recently that we now have this culture of complete comfort. It's in the history of mankind, that's very unusual. Yeah. Like 100 years ago, just think about going to the dentist 100 years ago or going to the doctor. Like, technology has advanced so much in such a short amount of time. Yeah. And I don't think we as humans really know what to do with that.
We don't have to work for food.
Yeah.
We don't have to hunt. We don't have to gather. We have to go to the grocery store and put a little plastic thing in there. Now, I'm not saying that's bad. Obviously that's good. The simplicity of that is good, but there's no question it's made us soft, and we don't know how to endure hard things. So yeah, with you there.
Well, we're at an hour 10, and I always like to finish with the podcast kind of just talking about some high performance habits of my guests. So what I'd like to know is, what does your morning routine typically look like?
I've actually got two. If I'm going to a workout with F3 workouts, we've discussed F3 a little bit. They are almost always at 5:30 in the morning. So if I'm going to that, I get up at 4:45. Just out of habit, I can't go to a workout without having a cup of coffee first. People think I'm crazy. If I don't have coffee and I go to a workout, my head's going to explode. So I'll have a cup of coffee and usually like a granola bar or something. Just that's not a health thing. It's just a habit thing that I can't go to a workout without coffee or without something in my stomach. And so then I would get to the workout at 5:25. Workouts usually from 5:30 to 6:15, and then a lot of times we'll go get coffee and talk, because that's, as I've probably made clear, that's the relationships are at least as important as the fitness. And then I get home and chaos starts, getting kids to school, getting breakfast made, getting myself fed, and then I, usually start work right around 9. Non-workout days, habitually I get up and read. Usually, so I'm a Christian, and so it's either the Bible or a theological book. That's how I like to start my day. I developed sort of a mantra about 2 or 3 years ago, just related to the social media stuff we were talking about, and how that infiltrates your brain and has you thinking about things you kind of don't want to think about. And so I asked myself, what do you want to think about today? I ask myself that as often as I can, and that I try to use that to govern what I read, what I click on, and so therefore I give myself a little bit more control over what I'm going to think about that day.
So have a little bit more intention to your day
Yeah,
and what your
and
thoughts and lining everything up with that.
yeah, I would say intentionality has been a big struggle for me over the years. I'm working on it.
No, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. What book or books have made the greatest impact? Maybe a book that you've gifted the most. Something that's been very influential to you.
I saw that question, and I don't think you're going to hear this answer again. But there's a book called Parliament of Horrors. It's by P.G. O'Rourke, and when I was a young journalist, he was by far and away my favorite writer. I happen to think that book is a masterpiece of humor, writing, political commentary, reporting. I read that and thought, how can I learn to write like that? And some writing coaches will tell you develop your own style. Some will say, sort of mimic other writers until you develop your own style. And him and along with a few others, I copied them as much as I possibly could until I developed my own style. And then after that, I would say I'm a huge C.S. Lewis fan. I've read the Chronicles of Narnia books, both for my own enjoyment and to my kids many times. And again, it's a masterpiece. There's however many books in the series, there's only one that I don't like. And there's a couple of them where I can't find a word that I would change. So I really admire the craft in that book.
That's awesome. So Parliament of Horrors.
And Parliament of Horrors, yeah, by P.G. O'Rourke.
And then the Narnia series.
Yeah.
Awesome. What is your current pursuit? What is your current challenge? You talk about doing hard things. What are you currently working on that's hard?
Working on MABA. So we're talking now. It's mid-December. That launches January 1st. I'm really passionate about the way that I think that could help men and fight loneliness. That's at epidemic levels. I've read research that loneliness is worse for us than smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. So if I can convince people to do 100 burpees, not only is that better for you than smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, there's no way you're going to do 100 burpees a day with your friends and not have more friends at the end. So that's the big thing. And honestly, trying to figure out, this convergence of adventure and shared suffering and the relationships that result, and my ability to persuade people to join me in these silly adventures, these grand adventures. I'm trying to figure out, is that just like a stage of life, just something I'm doing now, or is that something more profound? I haven't quite figured that out yet, but I'm working on it.
As I think about that and I look at my life, because I feel like for the most of my adult life, I've been taking on challenges. That was the means to me getting out of I started with running and a running coach when I was in high school that intervened when I was having a rough time, and it enabled me to transition to the military. But it's always been like something I've always had to train for something or do something difficult, have something on the schedule that challenged me to motivate me and inspire me. And I just, I don't know, I'll do an event. I'm like, never again. I'll never do that crap again. And then I sign up right away. And then over this weekend, I saw the lottery to the Leadvilles, and I'm like, you know what? That's a bucket list item. I'm at a point in my life where I'm transitioning from the military. I'm going to be stable this year. I could actually adequately train for it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just go for it. Just throw my name in the hat, and we'll see what happens. If I make the lottery, maybe I won't. But I don't know. I don't know that. I guess there's some people that they'll have different hobbies that come up, but I just don't see myself slowing down.
Oh yeah, no, I keep myself, I call it just in case shape.
Just
Uh,
in case. Yep.
just in case, just in case a friend invites me to do the Castlewood 8-hour adventure race, I'm pretty sure I can do it. Just in case we do, well, no, I've been training for MABA, but just in case, okay, 50, 50, 50, that the bike 50 miles or
Yeah.
hike 50 miles, bike 50 miles, canoe 50 miles. I had that idea for a while, and a lot of times I can't do these adventures unless I sell a story on it. And so that's kind of the way I phrase it, is just in case an editor says yes to 50, 50, 50 after I suggest it, I better be pretty sure that I can do it.
Yeah.
Tough Mudder, same thing. I sold the story on Tough Mudder, and I thought, well, I better make sure that I can do it. So I try to keep myself at a high enough level that any reasonable event that I would consider doing, I can pretty much be certain I can do it. I mean, I can't go run a marathon tomorrow, but I've done 3 250-mile bike rides in the last 3 years without, like having to hyper train for it, just because I'm in good enough cardio shape that I just need to get on the bike and go. So,
Yeah. I like your just in case. I always think my just in case is being able to run a half marathon if I wanted to. I'd probably suffer through it for sure,
yeah,
but I could finish it.
that's,
Instead of,
that's it. You make a great point.
yeah.
Am I gonna set some kind of record? Am I gonna set a personal best?
Yeah.
Well, no, but I'm going to be able to walk at the end of it.
Yeah.
Castlewood, I trained, specifically for a little, but I don't have a mountain bike, and that's the one I'm going to struggle at. So I couldn't really train for the mountain biking part, but you don't really have to trade for the canoe part's not hard. That you're just paddling. That doesn't take anything. And the hiking, yeah, 5 years ago I wouldn't have been able to do it, but now not super hard.
You wouldn't think paddling's hard, but people in their canoes, they're doing this the whole time.
Oh
I
my
just zip right. My training for the MR340, I've had some of the fastest splits on the Castlewood through the canoe just because just my training and keeping it straight, because people are they don't train for it and they're just all over the damn place.
It's funny that you say that. When we did my first Castlewood was 2 years ago, and it was me and this one of the great inspirations in my fitness life is this man. His name is Fred Williams. He's a 61-year-old gastroenterologist. Nickname is Honeypot. He's 61. He can do push-ups till you get bored of counting them. And he's a great runner. He's an incredible mountain biker. I can't imagine admiring somebody more than I admire him. He invites me to do Castlewood with him 2 years ago. It's me and him and 2 other guys. And the other 2 guys are in one canoe, and me and Honeypot are in the other one. He sits in the back, I sit in the front. And it turns out Honeypot is absolutely incredible at everything except steering a canoe. And we spun around completely 3 times, I think, and beached ourselves twice. This year, I said, Honeypot, I'm not getting in your canoe. You go with the other guy. I'll go with this guy. And so we were both in the front, and we went perfectly straight. I wouldn't say that our splits were all that good, but frankly, I think that's a little bit because we weren't trying to crush it. We were just paddling, but we lost a ton of positions last year and barely lost any this year.
So. That's awesome. That's awesome. You got better.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I always like to turn over the interview over to my guest. Just to ask me a final question. What questions do you have for me?
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, knowing your biography, how much of your resilience, and applying it to your life, when did that become an intentional thing? Like, so when did the running transition from I'm just running to I'm running for a purpose because I know I'm getting better for the rest of my life? Because it took a while for me to realize that. When did it happen for you?
When I was invited to cross country practice by my coach, that was the first time in my life that I felt I just looked up to them as a positive role model. And as part of a team, I'm like, okay, there's something to this. And I felt challenged, and I was naturally kind of good at it. I kind of knew right away, and I knew that I needed something to keep me out of trouble so I could finish high school. I grew up in a very impoverished community. Not a lot of people made it out of the neighborhood that I was in. And that got me through
Okay.
high school. So I knew at a very early age that that was like that's what I needed to do. That was my handrail of success, was to do these difficult things. And I have continued to do that because when I joined the military, having an abusive upbringing, I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. I had some natural physical ability, but there were some confidence issues that I had. Like I was very soft spoken. I was not confident in my leadership. I had trouble making eye contact with people.
Wow.
That
Well, hold on a second. So you've been transformed, obviously, because you sound like you're describing somebody else.
Oh, I'm absolutely transformed. I would say my communication, the recruiting duty really threw me out of my comfort zone in regards to my confidence and ability to speak and communicate. It was the drive for necessity to make recruiting mission to be like, okay, you need to go out to the community. And I was out in St. Louis. I was assigned to Manchester recruiting station, and had to go out and talk to people about the Army and joining the Army, where you're told no day in and day out. That was the most difficult assignment that I had ever had, was that assignment. Because here I am. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm getting rejected day in and day out. No, 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 no. And I was terrified to go out and talk to people. And that, all of these other difficult things that I've been doing really helped me navigate through, that very challenging assignment. And it was through doing the repetitions, like it transformed me to a completely different person, completely different type of military leader. And it was through that very challenging assignment. And I only made it through that challenging assignment because of all the other difficult things I've done. So, like I said, it's been a handrail of success for me. And I'm a completely different person. People that knew me like back in high school, like
All right, I'm a journalist, so I've got more questions for you. If you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so you get was this being the recruiting job?
Yeah.
First question, was that an assignment or did you raise your hand?
That was an assignment. So I came back from Iraq. I was in OIF 1, so the first rotation to Iraq. I came back, and this was a weird thing that had happened. We were back for probably maybe a month or so, and we were like gearing up. We knew that the unit was going to go back again the following year. So, and I had planned on probably doing another rotation, but when this enlistment was up, I was going to be done. I was out in Colorado Springs, Fort Carson. I closed on a house on a Friday. I come back to work on Monday, and all the NCOs in the inbox had orders for either drill instructor or recruiting. They wanted the seasoned NCOs that had some combat experience under their belt to go back out and teach brand new trainees and talk about the war. And so I would have preferred to been a drill instructor, but recruiting was the path that they chose for me. And so that's ultimately, I was voluntold to go do that. And
okay, good. Yeah. So you see that and you think, oh shit, how am I getting, like, what, walk me through, if you can, we're all terrified before we do our first adventure race. I think that's probably a pretty good analogy. How did you go from, I don't want to do this. This is a terrible idea. I don't even have these skills to making mission.
Oh man, it was tough. So they send you to recruiting school. So they teach you how to have a telephone conversation with people and start to put you have conversations with people. Not enough, just enough to be dangerous. I get to my recruiting office, and I was actually paired up with, we had some really very outgoing recruiters. My friend, Chris Pate, he was my battle buddy out there. He could talk to anybody. And I felt confident and comfortable. And one thing that the Army teaches you is to have a battle buddy, these hunter-killer team. So we called it the hunter-killer team because I was very passionate about telling my story and talking about the Army. It was just broaching, like going up to a stranger and talking to them or giving a presentation. But I was confident if I knew the person and had built that rapport. So we worked together really well. And the first year that I was out there, I absolutely sucked at it. But over time, I started just developing just by practicing, just throwing myself out there and watching how Chris talked to people, because he was just a natural extrovert. I'm very much an introvert. He would just strike up conversations. And I just started reading books about like a book that helped me was Go for No. It's a network marketing book, was about, make a game out of the no's, go get out of your comfort zone and go get as many, count the no's before you count the yeses. Like instead of going for 1 yes a day, go for 50 no's. You're bound to get a yes out of that.
Mm.
You might get 2 or 3, but don't stop until you get to the 50 no's. And so having that learning and growth mindset really helped me as well. And I started going to, I went to college. I went to Lindenwood. I took evening classes,
Oh, yeah.
and the format for the evening courses there was lots of presentations and a lot of papers. So communication based, which really helped me as well. So I just did the reps, and I just, like there's no way out of this assignment. It's only sink or swim. I got to make myself a subject matter expert. Having the growth mindset, like I can learn these skills, just got to get out of my own way and overcome my fears and face it, enabled me to be a good recruiter. I ultimately became one of the top recruiters before I'd left in that environment. And so I kind of gave me confidence. In the Army, they call these broadening assignments, getting you outside of your normal day-to-day job to go fulfill a role and broaden yourself. And that gave me confidence, like, hey, I can do something outside my normal comfort zone if I learn and if I'm open-minded. And that gave me confidence when I got back to the military, because after that, I went to officer candidate school, which I was terrified to do that too. But I'm like, I had the confidence because I overcame these fears. And if I just continue to grow, find mentors and coaches, and just do the work, show up, face the fear, I'll get better and I can figure it out. And I don't mean to gloat, but in almost any endeavor that I've taken on, by having that mindset, I've been able to at least get through it.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I've performed incredibly well just because of having that mindset.
Yep.
So long answer to your short question.
No, I think the ability to endure being told no is a special one. And I think the fact that you already have it is going to serve you well. Considering as we've said before, the ships are burned behind you. I think you're going to be happy for having that past experience.
Yeah. You got to burn the ships. You got to burn them. And by doing so, there's no way out. You got to go. And like you said, it's taking that paddle and just continue to dip in there.
Yep.
We still got, when we were at the paddle at Castlewood, we weren't even at the halfway point, right? We're already suffering. And it's just like, you just got to keep trudging forward,
Yep.
and one foot in front of the other.
Yep.
And having that mindset will get you through it. Just be persistent. Don't stop. So, well, Matt, hey, I appreciate you coming on today. This was a great conversation.
It was a pleasure. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
I love the fact that we met up at an event like Castlewood, and we're doing hard things together.
Yeah.
I appreciate the work that you're doing. How can people get in contact with you?
Yeah. All of my portfolio is mattcrossman.com. That very simple. And the newsletter it's on Substack, and it's the Accidental Adventurer.
Accidental Adventure. I'll link all of that in the show notes so people can get in contact with you. You need to follow with what Matt is doing. And if you want to develop grit and discipline, Matt's got some great tools for you and some challenges. Can you join the MABA? I don't know. We'll probably
Absolutely.
drop in this, so you can join at any time.
Join it. Yep. Yeah. We, as I've mentioned a couple of times, I'm in F3, and so it's going to be, mostly F3 guys, because that's who I know. But certainly it's not limited to that. I mean, the more the merrier.
Awesome.
Yeah. So just the sign up sheet will be there. Just sign up and start doing them. So
sounds good. Well, you want to develop grit and discipline. That's a challenge right there. You got to do something outside your comfort zone, something that's uncomfortable. So, all right, Matt. Well, hey, I appreciate your time, brother.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. For everyone listening, keep doing hard things. We'll see you in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, an interview with Matt Crossman. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe so you're notified of future episodes. Leave a review and share with 2 of your friends. And if you want to go a little bit deeper, you want to explore what your fullest potential with a certified high performance coach, you can apply for one-on-one coaching with me. You can join the Forge and be around other like-minded individuals who are on the path of high performance and living a fulfilling life. And if you haven't done so already, go grab yourself a hoodie or some other Do Hard Things merch. Appreciate you so much for listening. And in the meantime, keep doing hard things, and we'll see you in the next episode.